Hey guys, I got a great build to show. Overall, the build feels very tanky. It has decent damage, decent clear speed. It doesn't have very expensive items, but it is a bit more expensive than 10 divines probably. This is using Poet's Pen to trigger Detonate Dead of Chain reaction, and this is also using the Squire shield because it's like 2 divines only. And also this is Saboteur, but I think Saboteur is not really necessary. I just wanted to overload the screen with explosions. The DPS aspect is a bit lacking, and I'm not sure how much DPS I have. It's kind of hard to calculate not knowing exactly how much life the corpses have. It also doesn't have like the best clear speed because it requires like 2 attacks before it triggers the explosion for the first time. It doesn't have like the highest tankiness as well. This is not meant to be the tanky, but overall it's just a blast to play. I didn't really try many Uber bosses, I only tried Uber Shaper and the damage did not feel enough. Although it was kind of surprising that I could face tank the bullets, the purple ones, but like overall it's just a bit lacking damage. But other than that, other than Ubers, it can pretty much face tank everything except like big things like Maven's memory game. Can face tank multiple guardians at the same time, or like juiced up guardians. There are of course dangerous things, as always. It's not an unkillable build. It has a couple defensive layers, but it doesn't really have anything like super expensive or super unusual. So this is Saboteur. It has evasion, nearby enemies are blinded. It has spell suppression, it has Defiance of Destiny amulet, and Doppelganger. That's it. It does have decent life pool, but that's pretty much it. I don't have block other than the one from the shield itself, and that's it. I don't have any like crazy other shenanigans for the damage conversion taken. The main tankiness is coming from the Defiance of Destiny and Doppelganger. Those are the kind of mitigation and recovery sources. I was very surprised how tanky this feels. Now, the build does not reach its full damage potential. I wasn't able to get maximum proc rate with this. I'm kind of close to it because Poet's Pen, I believe, has 4 proc rates per second, but because this is Saboteur, I do have a bit higher proc rate limit. The problem is with this is I cannot really create enough corpses fast enough, because as a Saboteur I proc 2 Detonate Deads of Chain reaction and we detonate up to 8 corpses each because of trigger bots. Just from one Poet's Pen trigger I detonate up to 16 corpses, and I can only create up to 12 with the desecrate. And trigger bots also, by the way, spam desecrate twice as well, but it doesn't override the corpse limit, which is 12. Then I'm also stacking corpse life, and you can actually get corpse life on charms. So I believe I should be getting up to 90% corpse life. I don't have the perfect rolls, and I am still missing 1 charm, but 1 charm is not gonna give me like noticeably more damage. I am also using 9 Spectres. I didn't know that it was possible, but it seems to be possible. If you get 9 maximum Spectres and summon 9 different Spectres that have bigger life pool, I believe the Spectre's life cap is equivalent to Kitava's Herald's life cap. I'm not sure where is it saying that, but I was told that that's how it works. Any Spectres that have more life than Kitava's Heralds will be scaled down to match Kitava's Heralds somehow. So essentially you need up to 9 Spectres to create into your desecrate pool, up to 9 Spectres, and that way you increase the chance of spawning a higher HP corpses. But even with that, single target damage does not feel that great, especially when you put like 6,000-7,000 wisp juice. Some targets can be very scary, but still, for the most part, I could face tank most things. The Degen is still a bit more dangerous than other things, and physical hits. Chaos damage, I am actually pretty tanky against Chaos damage because I do have pretty decent Chaos resistance, and Doppelganger also gives me mitigation against that. But when it comes to physical, my only mitigation is Doppelganger. And also, blinded enemies do 15% reduced damage. Or should I say, I take 15% reduced damage from blinded enemies. And that's all the physical mitigation that I have. Oh, I do have actually Watcher's Eye for a bit more mitigation. 15% of physical damage from hits taken as fire, because I'm using Purity of Elements, so I'm also immune to elemental ailments. The other problem to solve for this was the mana cost, because as a Saboteur with trigger bots you double the mana cost, because each trigger bot counts as separate cast, it seems. So in order to lower the mana cost, and I didn't know that it's possible, you can actually get to 100% reduced mana cost, although I don't want 100% reduced, because I still want to use inspiration support, and for that I need at least 1 mana cost. So my Detonate Dead actually costs 2 mana, and 31 life. Now to lower the mana cost, Militant Faith Timeless Jewel can have quite a lot of reduced mana cost. It's 1% reduced mana cost per 10 devotion, and I believe in here I have 110 devotion. Yeah, I have 110 devotion, so it means I'm getting 11% reduced mana cost. And then I'm also using Impossible Escape to jump here to reduce all the cost of skills, including the life cost. Also traveling here to get a bit more reduced mana cost, to also get Mana Mastery, another 10% reduced mana cost of skills. And then Inspiration to lower the mana cost a bit more, and then minus mana cost rings. And you have to kind of match, you don't necessarily need both -7 mana cost rings, and you can also mix and match quality of inspiration, gives you a reduced mana cost. I was initially using increased AoE gem instead of concentrated effect, but I feel like it's not really necessary and it just kills FPS a lot more with increased AoE gem. Later on I just always used concentrated effect for clearing and for bossing. Now, Detonate Dead of Chain reaction technically should have more DPS per skill use, because it detonates up to 8 corpses, but it does 5.1% of corpse life, and the normal one is 7.9 of corpse life as damage. And this damage, by the way, is not a spell, and it cannot be reflected, and it cannot be blocked, and it cannot be suppressed. So modifiers that like excavation very often have block or spell block, and that literally doesn't matter. You can also run maps with spell suppression, also not gonna matter, because you're scaling everything as corpse life. The thing is, it was also triggered because, for example, flat added damage to spells will also not really work. It will work to the initial spell hit, but it's not gonna scale with the corpse hit. That's why I'm not running critical, I'm just running elemental overload. So I have fewer resources to scale the damage, and from the passive skill tree I pretty much don't really get much damage. I'm getting AoE, a bit of fire here, because the fire mastery is great. It gives 100% increased damage with hits against ignited enemies. However, I do stack charms with monster life, corpse life up to 20%. I do have a jewel which also has... It's a bit more expensive. You can just use any unique jewel that has corpses you spawn have up to 20% increased maximum life. Or you can also look for one that gives an extra damage, like cover enemies in ash is a massive damage, that's enemies take 20% increased damage. You can also get elemental penetration, you can get extra like -7 to exposure. I am applying exposure with the awakened fire penetration level 5. The levels actually don't scale your damage that much, because an extra level may be different between 5.1 and 5.2% of corpse life, so that's a very small difference. It just comes together all really well. You scale damage with the corpse life, and then you can just focus on defenses. But like I said, the damage is a bit lacking. I wish it had like 30% more DPS at least. And I'm not sure if I could get more damage. Obviously I could get like invest a lot more, and I did make quite a lot of currency playing this build. I think I made over 40 divines while playing this build. Most of it was just selling Alva temples for like 2+ divines each every 4 maps, and then the rest just random luck, like finding Enlighten from Uberlab and just randomly finding a lot of divines. So yeah, the build is a big success in my eyes. And I'm not sure how I would increase the damage more. Maybe some of you could figure out how to get more damage, because my brain usually is functioning better on a lower budget builds. I know how to make a build work on a lower budget, but I don't always know how to find ways to get more damage on a higher budget. So yeah, I'm gonna go over, maybe I won't go over all of my items, because it just, like I said, Defiance of Destiny, Poet's Pen, the Squire, and the rest just get Here's Rest if possible. Here's Rest is pretty much like a premium modifier. If you don't mind having a bit lower Here's Rest, you can build a lot cheaper build. And then yeah, the rest just get life resistances. Yeah, and then spell suppression. As you can see, the tankiness is not like crazy or anything. I don't have steel skin. I could add steel skin, so this is without any guard skill. So this kind of tankiness I think is pretty nice with and it's not accounted for the Defiance of Destiny. If PoB could calculate Defiance of Destiny, this effective hit pool would be much higher. If I could get stun immunity somehow else, I could replace this one, and I would actually love to use this one, because Saboteur also has this modifier, 20% chance to take 50% less area damage from hits. And you can also get these modifiers on charms. So you could actually stack quite a lot of chances, over 50% chance to take 50% less area damage from hits. That's massive. That's pretty much allowing you to tank Shaper Slams, even Uber Shaper Slams sometimes, maybe. But yeah, I can't think of an easier way to get stun immunity otherwise. And I don't have a lot of slots for normal jewels. And then I took this one only in the last couple levels, or like one level, just because some monsters had so much regen I just could not burst them down, so I had to get this one Pantheon upgrade. And this is level 93. You could actually get another jewel here by removing like this 3% spell suppression and get another jewel and get something else. You would essentially want charms like these: corpse life and then chance to take less area damage. There's not much else on charms. The strength could also be needed. You do need quite a bit of strength for shield charge and awaken fire penetration. It was actually pretty difficult to squeeze everything in, and ideally I think I would want a spell totem with a nerf to create more corpses. I end up using Arcanist brand. It's not as good, and it only attaches to enemies for 3 seconds. I don't have any skill effect duration, so it's only for 3 seconds. It provides me enough corpses to do more damage, and it's very noticeable when I have Arcanist brand activated. But yeah, the build does require level 3 Enlighten and helmet implicit for mana reservation to squeeze in. Well, actually not necessarily. I am using spellslinger with spell cascade, and the reason for that is purely to lay down corpses in a kind of line. It feels a bit better for clear speed, because without this the corpses are always laid down in like a single spot, and it doesn't spread out as much. If enemies move a bit, it kind of feels like it doesn't overlap as much. You may not need spell cascade in here, and you may not need well, enlighten. You would still actually no, you would not need enlighten if you don't do spell cascade. So enlighten is like 4 divines. The non-corrupted is like 8 divines plus, which is very weird. You don't need a 6-link body armor as well. I would like to get a bit more attack speed because I'm not reaching my proc limit. This is like 9.9 trigger rate, but it could go a bit higher. You could get these attack speed nodes, and yeah, just getting 4% attack speed, and that would be enough, I believe. This is using Blood Rage, yep. So yeah, the build is a big success, and I would definitely recommend this build. However, the FPS, well, the FPS is not so great with this build. So I constantly drop to like 50-60 FPS instead of like 90 FPS pretty much all the time while clearing. You see, even in here it drops to 50, and then the dynamic resolution kicks in and starts to pixelate to not drop the FPS more. Now you could use like a 1 damaging flask, like maybe Wise Oak, but it's not really gonna add all that much damage. I would rather carry 2 life flasks just in case. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this build. I think I mentioned everything. You can analyze the rest of the build in Path of Building. Oh yeah, I would recommend you to just run Uber Lab couple times and quality your gems that way. It's not really worth using GCPs anymore. They are way too expensive. It costs like 60 hairs, well, around 50 hairs to quality a gem to 20%. So yeah, I don't know the next build, so if you got some interesting build ideas, because I have a lot of currency now, for me a lot of currency, and I'm not sure what, like how to spend it or what build to do. So maybe I would do a build with something more expensive than usually, but yeah, I don't know. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.